It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. A simple comment, a small remark, a passing joke in the heat of the moment. But as she said those words, something shifted. Something that I could feel deep in my gut, the kind of feeling you get just before a storm breaks loose. Be a good boy, and maybe we'll have fun this Friday, she teased, her voice dripping with a mix of sweetness and challenge. It wasn't the words themselves that shook me. It was the way she said them. The confidence in her tone, the way her eyes flicked towards me with that glimmer, something was off. Carla hadn't spoken to me like that in months, maybe longer. And the more I replayed it in my head, the more I realized something had changed. The playful tone she used, it was familiar but distant, like a part of her had wandered off and was now testing the waters, seeing if I noticed. But I didn't notice. Not fully, anyway. I was sitting on the couch, my usual spot, phone in hand. I glanced up at her, watching her sip her wine, leaning back, letting her hair fall perfectly around her shoulders. She looked beautiful, like always, but that moment was different. My stomach churned with something I couldn't put into words. And before I could stop myself, the words I spoke next were already leaving my mouth. Be a good wife, or pay your own bills. The silence that followed was suffocating. Her smile faltered, just a little at first, before it disappeared completely. Her eyes locked on mine, but this time, they were different, cold, calculating. She didn't laugh. She didn't respond the way she usually would. Instead, she just stared at me, like she was waiting for something. I could feel the air shift, and before I could take it back, before I could apologize for whatever the hell I'd just said, she was up. She didn't slam the door, didn't scream, but she walked away slowly, deliberately, with a look that felt like a challenge. A challenge I wasn't sure I wanted to accept. And in that moment, I realized something wasn't right. But what was it? The next few hours dragged on, longer than any evening I could remember. Carla wasn't in the mood to talk. She wasn't angry, at least not outwardly, but she wasn't herself either. The silence in the house grew heavier with each passing minute. I stayed in the living room, pretending to scroll through my phone, trying to ignore the gnawing feeling in my stomach. But I couldn't shake the sense that something had changed between us. Something was unraveling, and I wasn't ready for it. I tried to approach her, of course. I knocked on the bedroom door, called her name softly. No response. And that's when I saw it. Her phone, left on the kitchen counter, face up. A message from a number I didn't recognize. I don't know why, but I picked it up. The text was short. Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place as last time. My heart dropped. It was like a sudden blow, an invisible punch to the gut. I hadn't seen that number before, and something about it felt wrong. I stood there, staring at the phone, trying to convince myself it was nothing. But the question echoed in my mind. Same place as last time? I didn't know what to do with the information. I felt like a fool for even looking at it, for even allowing my curiosity to go this far. But I couldn't help myself. The question burned in my mind, eating away at me. Who was she meeting? What was she doing? I waited for her to come back, to explain herself, to answer the question that I couldn't ask aloud. But when she did finally return, she didn't even look at me. She walked past, as if nothing had happened, as if everything was normal. But nothing was normal. I wanted to confront her, to ask her about the message, about the number. But I couldn't. I felt like I was choking on my own words. The guilt, the shame of even thinking about it, held me back. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thoughts swirling in my mind. I could feel it now, the distance between us. It wasn't something I had imagined, or something I could ignore any longer. Something had changed, and I wasn't sure I could fix it. I just hoped I was wrong. The next few days felt like walking through fog. I could barely see clearly, and every step I took seemed uncertain. Carla and I barely exchanged words after that night. It wasn't like a full-on fight, but there was an unmistakable tension in the air, like a crack in the foundation of our relationship that I couldn't ignore, no matter how much I tried. I tried to act normal. I went to work, did the things I always did, and pretended everything was fine. But every time I came home, the unease was there. Carla was colder than usual, and I couldn't help but feel like she was keeping something from me. I wanted to ask, but I couldn't bring myself to. Maybe I was afraid of the answer. Then, one evening, everything came crashing down. It was a Friday, the day she had made that offhand comment about having fun. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through channels, trying to lose myself in something mindless. Carla was in the kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner. For a brief moment, everything felt normal again. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. Her phone, left unattended on the counter again. The same phone that had been the source of my doubts just a few days earlier. I don't know what compelled me, but I walked over. My heart was pounding in my chest, my hands suddenly clammy. There it was, lying face up. The same number. The same message. Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place as last time. My pulse quickened. I knew I should walk away. I knew I had no right to invade her privacy, but I couldn't stop myself. I picked up the phone, my hands shaking as I opened the text thread. It wasn't just one message. There were several. Are you sure David is going to be busy tonight? Don't worry. I'll make sure he's occupied. I can't wait to see you again. My stomach twisted. The room seemed to close in around me as I read each message. The fear, the betrayal, the disbelief. I felt it all at once. I had no idea who this person was. But I knew one thing for sure. Carla was hiding something. Something she'd been hiding for a while. Before I could process it any further, I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. I turned, my heart nearly stopping. Carla stood in the doorway, her face pale, her eyes wide. She must have heard the phone pick up, heard the soft click as I opened the messages. She knew I had seen everything. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on us both. Her eyes flickered from the phone to me, and I could see the guilt in her expression. But it wasn't just guilt, it was fear. Fear of being caught. Fear of what I would do, of what this meant for us. David, she said, her voice trembling. I can explain. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, to ask who that person was and why she had been lying to me. But I couldn't. The words wouldn't come. My throat was tight, and all I could do was stare at her. Explain? I managed to say, my voice shaky. How do you explain this, Carla? What is this? She stepped forward, her hands shaking as she reached for the phone. Please, let me just. No, I said, my voice rising without meaning to. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to explain this away. Who is this? Who are you seeing behind my back? Carla looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, and for a split second, I thought she was going to break down. But instead, she took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and looked away. I didn't want you to find out this way, she whispered. I was going to tell you. I swear. I didn't know how. I was speechless. I felt like I was drowning. How long? I asked, barely able to get the words out. How long has this been going on? She hesitated, and for a brief moment, I thought she might lie to me. But then, she said the words that shattered everything. 6 months. I staggered back, my mind reeling. 6 months. For half a year, I had been living a lie, believing we were fine, believing everything was normal. And this whole time, Carla had been seeing someone else. Someone who wasn't me. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. 6 months. All those little moments. All those times when I thought something felt off. This was the reason. This was the truth I hadn't wanted to see. I'm so sorry, David, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I never meant for it to happen. I didn't want to hurt you. But it just happened. I could barely look at her. The woman I had spent years with, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And in that moment, I realized the depth of her lies, the years of deceit, and the unbearable truth that there was nothing I could do to fix it. I turned and walked away without saying another word. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there, not with her, not in that moment. I needed space. I needed time to process everything. And as I left the house, I realized one thing. My world had just been turned upside down, and I had no idea where I'd land. The following days felt like I was walking through some twisted version of reality, one where nothing made sense anymore. I left the house that night, needing to clear my head, needing to escape the suffocating weight of Carla's betrayal. I didn't know where I was going, just that I couldn't stay there. My thoughts were spiraling, and I had to do something to break the cycle, to distract myself from the pain. I drove aimlessly for hours, barely noticing the road beneath me, only half aware of the passing streetlights. My mind kept returning to the same question. How could I have been so blind? For months, I'd sensed something was off, but I never questioned it. Now, it all made sense, too much sense, and it hurt in a way I couldn't put into words. Eventually, I found myself parked outside a bar. I didn't even remember how I got there. The dim lights from inside flickered through the windows, casting long shadows on the pavement. I wasn't in the mood to be social, but I needed something to numb the pain, even if just for a little while. I walked in and found a seat at the far end of the bar, ordering a drink without thinking. The bartender gave me a sympathetic look, but I didn't care. I wasn't here for conversation, just to forget. As I sipped my drink, my phone buzzed. My heart skipped a beat when I saw Carla's name on the screen. I stared at it for a long moment, my hand hovering over the screen. I didn't want to talk to her. Not yet. Not after what she'd done. But there was a part of me that needed answers. I had to know who this person was, who she was betraying me with. I answered the call, my voice cold. What do you want? There was a long pause on the other end, before Carla's voice came through, shaky and full of regret. David, please. I know I messed up. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Can we talk? I closed my eyes, trying to control the anger that was boiling up inside me. Talk. You think you can just apologize and everything will be fine? I know I can't fix everything with just an apology, she said, her voice cracking. But I want to try. I need to explain, David. I need you to understand why this happened. I took a deep breath, my fingers gripping the glass in front of me. Explain? How could you explain something like this? 6 months of lying to me, behind my back, and you want to explain it? I could hear her sobbing now, and for a brief moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But the anger inside me was too strong. Who is he, Carla? Who is the man you've been seeing? There was another long silence, and when she finally spoke, her words hit me harder than I expected. It's not just one person, she whispered. There were several. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, but it did. The words crashed over me like a tidal wave. Several? How had I not seen it? How had I not noticed the warning signs? The way she'd been so distant, the way she'd started dressing differently, the late nights out. I thought it was just work stress, just life. But it was so much more than that. She hadn't just been unfaithful to me once. She had been lying to me in ways I couldn't even comprehend. I stood up suddenly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The bartender shot me a curious look, but I ignored him, focusing entirely on Carla's voice, now filled with guilt and shame. I don't know why I did it, she said, barely above a whisper. It started off so small, just one mistake. And then it snowballed. But I never wanted you to find out this way. I never meant for you to get hurt. I couldn't listen to her anymore. My head was spinning, and my chest ached with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye, leaving the words she had spoken hanging in the air between us. I stood in the middle of the bar, feeling like I was on the edge of something I couldn't control. For the first time, I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at myself. How had I let it go on for so long? How had I ignored all the signs? I walked out of the bar into the cold night air, needing to get away from everything. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what to do. I only knew one thing. I couldn't go back to that house, not yet. Not until I figured out what came next. As I wandered the streets, I tried to gather my thoughts, but they were scattered all over the place. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Answers, closure, peace, but all I found was confusion. That night, I stayed out until dawn. I didn't want to go back. I couldn't face her, not yet. I needed time to think, to process everything. But deep down, I knew one thing for certain. Everything had changed. There was no going back. The man I thought I was had been ripped apart, and I wasn't sure who I would be when I picked up the pieces. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove around aimlessly, unable to sit still, unable to face what was waiting for me. The city lights blurred past as my mind raced. Carla's words echoed in my head, her confession of not one, but several betrayals. Each passing minute felt like a punch to the gut, and I couldn't escape it. Eventually, I found myself parked in front of our house, the place I used to feel safe in. Now it just felt like a cage. I sat there for a while, staring at the windows, wondering what I'd find inside. Was she still asleep? Or was she waiting for me to come back so she could explain herself? Could I ever look at her the same way again? I couldn't stay in the car forever. Slowly, I opened the door and walked to the front porch. My feet felt heavy, like I was walking toward my own doom. When I reached the door, I paused, my hand hovering over the handle. I didn't know what to expect when I stepped inside. I didn't know if I could look at her without seeing everything she had kept from me. I opened the door. The house was quiet, too quiet. The lights were off, but I could hear her soft breathing from the bedroom. For a moment, I considered leaving again, maybe driving until I couldn't feel anything anymore. But then, the truth slammed into me. I had to confront her. I had to know everything, even if it destroyed me. I stepped into the bedroom, the soft creak of the floorboards making her stir. She opened her eyes slowly, and when she saw me standing there, her face fell. The remorse was written all over her. But it wasn't just guilt anymore. It was something darker, something I couldn't ignore. "David," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Please, don't leave. We need to talk." I didn't respond at first. I just stood there, staring at her, trying to process the chaos inside me. My heart was pounding in my chest, my mind still reeling from the phone call earlier. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, but I couldn't. Instead, I spoke slowly, my voice cold and distant. 6 months, Carla. 6 months of lies. Who else? Who else have you been with?" She looked down, avoiding my gaze. The silence stretched between us, heavy and unbearable. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she said, barely above a whisper. "I never wanted it to go this far. It just happened." I felt a rage bubbling up inside me. "Just happened? Is that what you're going to tell me? You didn't think about how this would hurt me? How long were you planning to keep this from me?" "I don't know," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't think it would get so out of hand. It started with just one person, and then it became a pattern. I couldn't stop. I felt trapped. I didn't know how to get out." I shook my head in disbelief. "So you thought lying to me, betraying me over and over, was the answer?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "No, I didn't think it was the answer. I was just lost. I thought I could fix it, that I could fix myself, but I kept making the same mistakes. I didn't want to hurt you, David. I love you." The words felt empty to me. Love? How could she say that when she had been seeing other people behind my back, lying and hiding it for so long? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. "I don't know if I can believe that anymore," I said quietly. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again." She reached out to me, her hands trembling. "Please, David, don't say that. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make it right." I backed away from her, my chest tight with frustration and pain. "I don't know what you can do to fix this," I said. "You've shattered everything. I don't even know who you are anymore." She looked at me, her face a mixture of sadness and desperation. "I'm still the woman you married, David. Please, give me a chance to prove it." But I couldn't see it anymore. The woman I had trusted, the woman I had built a life with, was gone. In her place was a stranger, someone who had betrayed me in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. I turned away from her, not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do. "I don't know if I can stay," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I don't know if I can forgive you." As I walked out of the room, I heard her call my name. But I didn't turn back. I couldn't. The damage had already been done. I left the house that night, feeling like a part of me had died. I didn't know where I was going. All I knew was that I couldn't stay there. Not with her. Not with the lies. I drove for hours that night, aimlessly, without a destination in mind. My mind felt like it was on fire, racing through a million thoughts, trying to make sense of the wreckage that had become my life. Carla's words haunted me. "I love you, David." How could she still say that? How could she look me in the eye and lie like that, knowing what she had done? I had no answers, no closure. I just kept driving, hoping that the endless road would somehow give me clarity. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale light barely cutting through the thick fog that surrounded me. I didn't want to go back to the house. I didn't want to face her, not yet. I needed space, time to figure out what I was even supposed to feel. The next morning, I found myself at a small diner, the kind of place where you can get a cup of coffee without anyone asking questions. I sat in a booth near the window, staring out at the world that seemed so far away from my own. My phone buzzed on the table, but I didn't pick it up. I knew it was Carla, trying to apologize again, trying to fix something that was broken beyond repair. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I let the world outside continue, as if it hadn't just exploded around me. But no matter how much I tried to push it down, the reality of what had happened kept creeping back up. I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't pretend everything was fine. When I finally did look at my phone, there was a message from Carla. One simple sentence. "Can we talk?" I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to shut it out completely. But something inside me couldn't. Maybe it was because I needed answers. Maybe I needed to hear her say the words, to hear her explain why. But the truth was, I didn't know if I was strong enough to hear it. I stood up, my hands trembling slightly. The weight of the decision settled on me. I knew I couldn't keep running. I had to face it. I got in my car and drove back to the house. This time, I wasn't sure what I was walking into, but I knew it was inevitable. The door was still ajar when I arrived, and I hesitated for just a moment before stepping inside. The house was eerily quiet, like it was holding its breath. Carla was sitting on the couch, her hands clasped tightly together in her lap. She didn't look at me at first, as if waiting for me to say something. But I didn't have the words. What could I say? Why? How could you? Instead, I just sat down across from her, keeping a safe distance. The silence between us felt thick, suffocating. Finally, Carla spoke, her voice small, almost breaking. David, I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to be this person. I was weak. I made mistakes, and I regret every single one of them. I looked at her, trying to read the sincerity in her eyes. But all I saw was someone who had betrayed me. A stranger. You say that now, I said, my voice calm but edged with pain. But where were you when I needed you? Where were you when I trusted you with everything? She looked down, her tears falling silently. I was lost, David. I didn't know how to stop. I thought I could control it. But I couldn't. The words hit me harder than I expected. Not because they were new, but because they were so real, so raw. She wasn't making excuses anymore. She was admitting to it, to the mess she had created. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said softly, the weight of the decision hanging between us. I don't even know who you are anymore. Her face crumpled as she sobbed quietly. I'm still the woman you married. I'm still the woman who loved you, who wanted nothing but a life with you. But it wasn't that simple anymore. I wasn't sure if I could ever look at her the same way. Could I trust her again? Could I live with the knowledge that every time she smiled at me, she might have been hiding something? The silence stretched on, but this time, it wasn't as heavy. It was filled with uncertainty. There were no answers. There was only the painful reality of everything that had changed. And no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't undo what had been done. I didn't know what I expected when I walked back into that house. Maybe I thought I would find some clarity, some moment where the fog would lift and everything would make sense again. But as I stood there, facing Carla, I realized there was no clarity to be found. Not now. Maybe not ever. Her tears still stained her face as she sat there, her hands gripping the edge of the couch. I could feel the weight of her apology in the air, but it didn't make it easier. It didn't change the fact that the woman I had loved, the one I thought I knew, had betrayed me in ways I couldn't begin to process. I don't know how we got here, I said quietly, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. I don't know how everything went so wrong. Carla shook her head, her eyes pleading for understanding. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, David. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could fix things. I was just so selfish, and I couldn't stop. Her words hung in the air, but they didn't feel like an answer. Not the one I needed. They were just excuses, soft and fragile. I wanted something stronger, something that didn't leave me questioning everything. I don't know if I believe you anymore, I said, my voice low, but steady. It's hard, Carla. I thought I was the one you turned to when things got tough. But instead, you went behind my back. She closed her eyes, letting the tears fall freely. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. I swear. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I got caught up in it. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to demand she tell me why, tell me what had been missing in our marriage that made her turn to someone else. But I couldn't. My chest was tight with emotions I couldn't name. Anger, betrayal, confusion, and something else. Something deeper. I don't even know who you are anymore, I said softly, my voice breaking a little despite myself. You were everything I thought I wanted, and now I feel like I'm looking at a stranger. That was the hardest part. Realizing that the woman sitting in front of me, crying and pleading for forgiveness, wasn't the person I had married. She wasn't the woman I had trusted with everything I had. She wasn't even the woman I thought I understood. And yet, there was still a part of me that wanted to believe her. A part of me that couldn't just shut the door. Not yet. Do you still love me? I asked before I could stop myself. It wasn't a question I had planned to ask, but it slipped out. The words felt raw, vulnerable, and I immediately regretted them. Carla froze, her gaze meeting mine, filled with both regret and something else, something I couldn't quite decipher. I do, she whispered. I never stopped. I made a terrible mistake, and I don't expect you to forgive me for it. But I love you, David. I always have. I took a step back, running a hand through my hair. I needed space. I needed to think, to breathe. I couldn't just jump into forgiveness. Not now. Maybe not ever. But there was something inside me that told me I wasn't done yet. Maybe it was my own weakness. Maybe it was hope. But I needed answers. I needed the truth, all of it. I can't do this right now, I said, my voice strained. I need some time, Carla. I need to think. She nodded, looking defeated, but I could see the relief in her eyes. She wasn't going to fight me. Not now. She knew that this wasn't something that could be fixed overnight. I understand, she whispered. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. If you ever are. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her there. I didn't know if I was making the right decision. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing by giving her that space, by walking away without any answers. But I had to. For my sanity. For my own heart. I left the house and drove again, this time with no destination in mind. I had no answers. I had no idea what was coming next. But as I drove through the city, I felt something shift inside me. A decision was forming, something I couldn't ignore any longer. The drive that day was different. I wasn't just trying to escape my thoughts or the crushing weight of Carla's betrayal. I was trying to make a decision. It was as if I was on the edge of something, and every mile that passed only made the fall feel inevitable. I ended up at a park, the kind where no one really goes unless they're looking to be alone. The bench was cold beneath me as I sat down, the wind rustling the leaves around me, each gust like the whisper of a decision I wasn't ready to make. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. Carla. I knew it was her. She had been reaching out, asking for another chance, begging me to listen, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. What could I say? What was left to say? 6 months of lies, deceit, betrayal. How could I even think about trusting her again? But then, there was the other side of me, the part that had shared a life with her, built a future together. I loved her. Or at least, I used to. But love was complicated now. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was a battlefield inside my chest. I stared at the sky, the clouds darkening above me, and I thought about the way she'd looked at me, the way she'd begged me for forgiveness. There was pain in her eyes, but there was also something else, something I couldn't quite place. Was it real? Or was it just another act? The more I thought about it, the more I realized how badly I wanted to know the truth. Not just the surface truth, not just the I'm sorry or the I love you. I needed to know why. Why had she done it? Why had she chosen to destroy everything we had built? I couldn't answer that yet, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. Not yet. I picked up my phone and dialed her number. The line rang a few times before she picked up, her voice soft and cautious. David? She asked, as if she wasn't sure what to expect. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I had to ask the hard questions now, before I could even think about moving forward. Carla. I started, my voice steady but tinged with the anger I was trying to suppress. I need to know everything. I can't keep going in circles with you. I need to understand. Why? There was a long pause on the other end, and for a moment, I thought she wasn't going to respond. But then she spoke, her voice shaky. I was scared, she said quietly. I felt like we were growing apart. It wasn't one moment, David. It was 1,000 little things, 1,000 tiny moments where I felt alone. I didn't know how to fix it, so I made a choice I regret every single day. Her words were raw, unfiltered. She wasn't making excuses, at least not in the way I expected. She was explaining, admitting to something I didn't know she would even admit to. I didn't know how to fix it either, I said, my voice quieter now. I thought we were fine, but I couldn't see what was happening until it was too late. I wasn't paying attention. I should have been there for you when you needed me. I could feel the tension between us shift slightly, but it wasn't enough to make things right. There was still so much broken. The damage was done. I never wanted to hurt you, David, Carla whispered. You have to believe me. It was a moment of weakness, and I thought I could fix it without anyone finding out. But now, I see how stupid I was. I wanted to say something comforting, something that would make all this easier. But there was no easy way out. No magic words that could undo everything she had done. All I could offer her was silence. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said quietly, the words heavier than I wanted them to be. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. She sobbed quietly on the other end, the sound making my chest tighten. But I couldn't soften. I couldn't backtrack. This wasn't just a mistake. This was months of lies, of betrayals, of everything I thought I knew being ripped away in a single moment. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything." I didn't know what to say. What could I say? I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think that maybe we could get through this. But the truth was, I wasn't sure if I could ever move past what had happened. I wasn't sure I even wanted to. "I need time," I said finally. The word's a concession, but also a wall. "I can't promise anything, Carla. Not right now." The line went silent for a long time. She didn't say anything, but I could hear the soft sniffling of her crying in the background. "I understand," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Take all the time you need. I'll wait." I ended the call without another word. As the silence in the car settled around me, I felt the weight of it. I was still lost, still trapped in the chaos of what had happened. But I knew something now. I couldn't go back to the way things were. The trust had been broken, maybe irreparably. But I also knew that I wasn't ready to give up completely. Not yet. Weeks passed after that conversation. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each day a battle with my own thoughts, my emotions swinging from anger to doubt to a strange, lingering hope. Carla and I kept our distance, but I couldn't ignore the part of me that still cared for her, the part that wanted to believe we could rebuild something from the ashes. But it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me. I had to figure out what I wanted. I couldn't live in the shadows of the past. I couldn't keep circling back to the pain, wondering if it would ever fade. One evening, when the sky was still tinged with the orange glow of sunset, I found myself standing in the kitchen of the house I had once thought of as ours. Carla was sitting at the table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She looked different, softer, more vulnerable, yet there was something renewed about her. She was still the woman I loved, but also someone who had been through something she couldn't take back. I sat down across from her, the weight of everything still heavy, but there was a certain peace in the air now. The silence was no longer suffocating. It felt like the calm after a storm, where the sky was clearing and the air was fresh again. "I've been thinking a lot," I said, breaking the silence. "About everything." Carla nodded, waiting, her eyes filled with both fear and anticipation. "I don't know if I can ever fully forget what happened," I continued, my voice steady. "But I've realized that I can't live in the past, either. If we're going to move forward, we both have to be willing to forgive. Not just you, but me too. I wasn't perfect either." She reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly as she took mine. "David, I've never wanted to hurt you. I know I can't take back what I did, but I swear, I've learned from it. I've learned what truly matters. And I'll do anything to show you that." For the first time in weeks, I felt a weight lift from my chest. The pain wasn't gone, but I understood it better now. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about creating something new. The love that we had shared, even through the lies and mistakes, still had the potential to grow into something stronger if we were both willing to fight for it. "I don't know where this will go," I said softly, "but I think we owe it to ourselves to try. We can't change what happened, but we can control what comes next." She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes. We'll rebuild, David. Together." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It wasn't the easy fix I had imagined in the beginning, but it was real. And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe, just maybe, things could be okay again. We weren't perfect, and we never would be. But we were willing to try, to forgive, and to heal. We spent the next few hours talking, not about the past, but about the future. What we both wanted, what we both needed. It was raw, it was painful, but it was also full of hope. As the night grew darker and the stars began to fill the sky, I realized that healing wasn't a straight line. It wasn't a quick fix or a clean slate. It was messy, it was real, and it was something we had to work on every day. But for the first time in a long while, I believed in the possibility of a new beginning. And that was enough.